You're stuck because you're waiting for it to feel bad enough to leave. And I'm telling you, that belief is what keeps you in this bad relationship. If you're still in it, it almost never becomes obvious enough to leave, no matter how long you wait or how carefully you track the behavior. You keep assuming that there's going to be this moment where everything just kind of becomes undeniable and clean. You imagine a future version of yourself who finally just knows for sure it's all going to make sense one day. We think that we're going to feel sure first and then leave, but most of the time you leave first and the knowing comes after. There's actually a name for this. It's called self-perception theory. It means that we don't figure out how we feel and then act. We act first, and our brain kind of catches up afterward. We do the thing, and then our mind goes, oh, okay, I guess this is how I feel. This makes sense. So you keep staying, and you're monitoring and adjusting and postponing. You tell yourself that you're being responsible, not avoidant. You tell yourself that this is fair. You're not being afraid. But the truth is, the question itself is already doing the damage. And the longer you keep asking it, the harder it becomes to hear anything else. You wake up already tired, not because something dramatic necessarily happened the night before, but because your mind never actually shut off. You fell asleep replaying the same interaction again and again. You know, the one where you almost said something and then you decided not to? You're lying there with your phone in your hand, scrolling. You're not really seeing anything, right? Part of you hopes there's a message. Part of you dreads it. You're already bracing before the day even starts. The first thought isn't, should I leave? It's, maybe today will be okay. That thought feels harmless when it shows up, right? Optimistic, even kind. But it's not optimism. This is adaptation. It's your nervous system staying attached to the possibility of relief. Not even actual relief, just the possibility. The question, is it bad enough to leave? I think it sounds really mature when you say it out loud, right? You're being thoughtful. You're not going to be impulsive. You're basically making like a pros and cons list, right? You're not just going to fly off and get divorced without really thinking this through and being sure. It sounds like you're trying to do the right thing instead of blowing your life up. Who wants to do that? But the question assumes that something isn't true. It assumes that there's a future moment where the math suddenly starts to all make sense. It assumes the good is going to stop counting, that the scale is just going to tip on its own. I'm telling you, that moment does not come when you're still inside the relationship. The relationship keeps interrupting it, right? Every time things calm down, the calculation just resets. And every reset trains you to doubt the part of you that wanted to go in the first place. You didn't logic your way into this, so you're not going to logic your way out. I'm Lisa Sonni. I'm a relationship coach who specializes in abusive dynamics, working every day with women who are stuck in this exact loop. Subscribe because this is what this channel exists to do, right? Name the patterns that keep women questioning themselves even after they know something is so wrong. They know the behavior. They know the feeling. I know you know. What you don't trust anymore is your own internal stop signal. So you keep asking a question that sounds reasonable and it keeps you stuck. This isn't a failure of intelligence, and a lot of people think that, right? You're just too stupid to leave. It's a result of conditioning, and it happens so slowly that it feels like it was your own idea. Now, here's the belief that you were given that actually really keeps this loop alive. You were told that if something was truly wrong, you'd know. You were told that love is hard sometimes and relationships go through seasons and it's not all good and marriages take work. You were told that people change if you communicate better. So now you start monitoring instead of responding. You track patterns, right? Which is actually a good thing to do. You compare today to yesterday. You compare him to worse men. Now we're getting in the wrong direction. You think you see improvement in him, sometimes, kind of, right? You ask yourself whether this actually falls within the normal range of hard. Is this what people meant? And he's there telling you, all couples fight, this is normal. Or that whatever doesn't feel normal to you is your fault. And you're busy categorizing your own pain, figuring out what's bad and what's bad enough. The relationship keeps functioning exactly as he wants it to. Nothing interrupts it. Nothing forces you to make a decision. The system stays intact because you stay undecided. He benefits from your confusion. I don't want you to look at actually how this plays out in real time. Let's say a bad moment happens. It doesn't even have to be an explosive one. Maybe it's an argument or silence. It's a comment that just pisses you off, something that hurts your feelings. And in that moment, it does feel bad enough. For a moment, you think, I can't keep doing this. So you imagine leaving, right? And you picture what you would say. Maybe you even feel a little bit of relief just even thinking about leaving. But then he softens, he makes a joke, he acts normal, he gives you a hug, or nothing happens at all. And sometimes that feels like peace. It's weird how sometimes the absence of abuse feels like peace, eh? Your body relaxes. So this urgency to leave him that you once had, gone. The question disappears until next time. But that's why the question never resolves. The relationship is never bad enough or long enough in one direction for your system to actually move. The pain kind of goes up and then it's calm over and over again. I'm describing conditioning. You don't stay because it's good. You stay because the discomfort and the pain doesn't stay long enough for your nervous system to literally just go, I can't do this anymore, and mean it and stick with it. Relief keeps getting mistaken for improvement, but it's not actually improvement at all. No matter what you want to type in the comments about him really changing or getting better in some small ways, it's not actual improvement. No, but my guy really did get better. No, he didn't. Calm keeps getting mistaken for change, and hope resets that clock. The truth is, there are entire books, so many books, built around this feeling of being torn, and that should tell you something. Too good to leave, too bad to stay. Should I stay or should I go? Our love is too good to feel so bad. All these books, different titles, but all these people are having the exact same experience. This is not a niche problem. Hundreds of thousands of people are wondering this too. This is just a predictable outcome of relationships that are abusive, that destabilize you while keeping you attached. The problem is not a lack of information. Your decision-making system is being overridden by intermittent relief. And I'm telling you, no amount of logic fixes that while you're still inside it. Now, this is where trauma bonding actually matters as a mechanism. Trauma bonding means your attachment system gets wired to relief, not to safety. So in really plain language, the moment things improve even slightly, your body treats that as evidence that staying is actually working, not because it's actually working. The discomfort stopped, temporarily, of course. Every time you survive another low point and you make it back to okay, your body tightens, right? You don't feel foolish, you feel invested. And I think investment makes people feel like leaving is just some reckless thing to do instead of a necessary thing to do. I teach women how to break trauma bonds. Watch yourself preparing to bring something up, right? You get all nervous, you're rehearsing the words, you tell yourself, okay, calm, be reasonable. I'll pick the right time, not Saturday because then it has to be Sunday because what about Tuesday after work? You're editing yourself, you're managing his reaction. You should not need to be a friggin' communications strategist to talk to your man. That's learned behavior, and it costs you something every time you do it. Over time, it just accumulates. I want you to think about how much energy goes into deciding whether it's that bad. You're here tracking frequency. You remind yourself it's not constant. You tell yourself, hey, he doesn't hit you. He's only what, 20% bad? 15%? You minimize because other people have it worse. Meanwhile, you're shrinking your life around somebody else's frigging moods. You're organizing your days around avoiding fallout. That's the real cost. It's never really in the worst moments. It's the constant mental occupation that never lets you rest. Now, my argument, 0% of abuse is the goal, but sometimes that feels impossible, and sometimes that 15% feels worth it. You know, it's the cost you pay for the other 85. Now, here's a moment you might recognize. Let's say you're driving alone, maybe to work, maybe you're going to run errands, but for a few minutes, you feel lighter. Maybe not happy, maybe not, but just sort of less tense. Your shoulders drop without you even noticing. And then you realize this only happens when you're actually not around him. Maybe he goes away for the weekend with the boys or a work trip and you're like, oh, this feels good. But almost immediately you correct it, right? You're being dramatic. You tell yourself every relationship is stressful. It's fine. You really miss him. You really can't wait to get home. You tell yourself that leaving would blow everything up. So you keep going. That's how the cycle kind of maintains itself. I once made a video, just a really short one, of me pulling into the driveway and you just sit there. You're just dreading going inside because he's home. It went viral. It was like a 10-second video, right? So relatable. You felt lighter before you pulled into the driveway. That dread is awful. Now, the belief that keeps you stuck is very simple. You think you're supposed to wait until leaving feels obvious, until it's like undeniable, right? Until certainty is there and it's clear. But certainty doesn't come in environments that are constantly destabilizing you. It can't. Your system is so busy staying regulated enough to survive. That's the job that it's been doing. And the longer it does that job, the harder it becomes to hear anything else. Now, here's a part that a lot of women really resist. The confusion itself, not neutral at all. Healthy relationships actually don't produce years of internal debate about whether or not you're allowed to want out. You should be able to leave your husband because it's Tuesday. You don't need a good enough reason. You can be mad at your spouse and not wonder if you should leave them constantly. But that confusion is key. You're making all these little, internal spreadsheets, these pros and cons lists, like I said. A relationship that's even remotely healthy should not make you feel like you need to prepare for closing arguments to ask for a divorce. So when you keep asking, is it bad enough? You're really asking, do I have permission yet? And as long as you are waiting for permission, you stay. And permission from who? You only need permission from yourself. But all of this is the trap. If you told him that you wanted to leave, he'd say why. And if you answer, here you go, you're in the middle of a negotiation. So go back again to that morning that I was describing in bed. The exhaustion is not just from one argument. It's from never fully being able to relax, not even on good days. Maybe even especially on good days, because I tell you, the good days, there's a lot of work happening. It keeps you hoping. They keep you invested. They keep you questioning whether or not the problem is actually the relationship or you. That's how the bond protects itself. This is why nothing you try fixes it. Better communication? No. Boundaries? Don't bother. Waiting for him to change doesn't work because the issue was never effort. It's actually orientation, right? You've oriented yourself around making the relationship survivable instead of asking, what is this costing me to stay? And that orientation is going to destroy you. Some women leave after one incident, and that's not because their situation was objectively worse or better. It's because something inside them broke the spell. And for most women, it's slow. I wish it happened quickly. Oh my God, I wish it happened quickly all the time. It breaks through exhaustion, numbness, right? When you start to question yourself, when it starts to feel dangerous, physically or emotionally, when you start realizing that you have been asking for this for years and you're not getting anywhere. I want you to watch how the costs stack up. You stop sharing because it's easier. You stop expecting consistency because disappointment hurts and it keeps happening and nothing's changing. You stop bringing your full self because it creates conflict, so you just don't. Now, none of this happens overnight. It happens over you making a concession here, a concession there, and all of a sudden, what the hell, right? You realize that your life has been organized around not upsetting someone else's life. And that person has no issue upsetting you. That is the point of return that most women can't even name. Here's another moment. Let's say you're with your friends, you're with your family, you're laughing more easily, you speak freely. Somebody asks a simple question and you actually answer it. You don't second guess yourself. You're not looking at him for any kind of validation. You go home, you feel the shift, right? The carefulness. You tell yourself you're imagining it, but you're not. Your body knows the difference between safety and management. You feel better, safer, lighter when he is not around. Pay attention to that. That knowledge that I'm describing, it doesn't go away. It just kind of moves in and out of your consciousness, so to speak. Abusive dynamics do not need to be constant to be effective. If anything, they need to be unpredictable. That's the point. Unpredictability is what keeps you engaged and scanning and adjusting. Unpredictability is what keeps you confused and trauma bonded and in a state of cognitive dissonance. This is why the good moments never set you free. It doesn't help you make the decision. They just reset the bond. They buy the system more time. And every time it resets, it's actually making it harder, not easier. I want you to notice how often you think, if it were really that bad, I'd have gone already. I know that's what people say, right? But that logic only works in an environment that doesn't actively undermine your trust in yourself. Inside abuse, listen, the longer you stay, the harder it becomes for you to actually rely on your own judgment. So you keep outsourcing the decision to this future moment, this future version of you. You're going to decide next year. You're going to decide after Easter. You're going to decide after his birthday. But in the meantime, the cost keeps accumulating. Time, energy, focus, money, opportunity. You stop planning because you don't know what mood you're going to be dealing with. So you stop even imagining a different life. It feels pointless. Staying is not neutral. It's draining you. And waiting for it to feel bad enough, I'm telling you, it is the fastest way to guarantee that that drain continues. People ask what finally made you leave. And most women struggle to answer. Not because nothing happened, but because it wasn't one thing. It was exhaustion, maybe noticing how much mental space was gone, realizing that the question itself had been running your life. This is the moment that the illusion just breaks, right? Smash the fantasy, burn the fantasy to the ground. Here's the correction. You don't wait until it's bad enough. You recognize that constant evaluation is harmful in and of itself. A relationship that actually requires you to keep justifying your own unhappiness, it's costing you way too much. Life is short. That is not a dramatic statement. It's a factual one. Subscribe because this is the kind of clarity that breaks loops like this. This is what gets you to your aha, breaking the shelf moment. So if you're watching this and you're noticing yourself comparing and minimizing or wondering whether this applies, that's literally the same mechanism at work here. The need to be sure before you're allowed to act. That didn't come from nowhere. It was trained. And it doesn't mean that you have to leave today, right? Let's take a deep breath. It just means that you stop waiting for the relationship to give you permission. This whole shift is going to change everything. When women work with me, they almost always say the exact same thing. They knew for a long time. They knew. Their body knew before their mind caught up. They talk about being exhausted and tired, and they just can't do this for a second longer. If you keep asking, is it bad enough? Understand this. That question is going to keep you stuck as long as it frames your decision, because you don't need a final straw. And you don't need a diagnosis. You don't need agreement from this person. You need to stop negotiating with a system that benefits from your hesitation. If you need support while you're sitting with this, She Rises Collective is my online community where that happens, okay? This space has weekly group coaching, education, real-time support, so you're not trying to figure all of this out alone while you're still living inside of it. And if what's coming up for you is attachment or ambivalence or that feeling of just being unable to detach, even though you know something is not right, then I have a trauma bond recovery group coaching program when we do a lot of deeper work here. It's specifically focused on breaking the trauma bond to an abusive partner. And you could be in or out of the relationship, just not sure how to really let go. Hit subscribe. The end state might not be certainty, but it's seeing the cost clearly enough so that the question finally stops being important. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.